In all the noise online today, it's easy to get caught up in thinking of others as competitors and trying to be the one on top.
So on today's episode, we're chatting on why changing your perspective and seeing them as collaborators instead of competitors can take you and your business to the next level.
Are you frustrated by a lack of momentum in your business? Tired of putting in long hours doing what everyone says you should and still not making money? Sounds like you're ready for Lifestyle Builders. We'll help you get back on track, taking action and seeing results. Head over to joinlifestylebuilders.com today to get started. All right. So as promised in our last episode where we talked about, oh, hi, kitty cat. We talked about core values. We did talk about one of our core values being collaboration over competition, and that we wanted to dive a little bit deeper into this and just kind of have a discussion around why this is one of our core values and what we think it means.
Yeah, well, it's funny, when we work with newer entrepreneurs, people getting started, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, well, I can't tell you because you're going to steal my idea. Or I can't say because other people are going to steal my idea. And I just have to laugh. Because, I think every business owner goes through this at some point until you realize that ideas are a dime a dozen. Like my favorite experience when I see this is when you're like at a store with someone or you see an infomercial and someone's like, oh, that was my idea. I had it 5 years ago. And they think just because they had this idea that, well, I could have been successful doing that. And the question I ask is, well, why didn't you do it? Because here's the reality. Ideas are like 5%. The execution and doing everything else to make it work is the other 95. And so when you get into, business and all of this, you want to be aware of what everyone else is doing, but it's really more about awareness and understanding where you fit in and less about saying like, you're all competitors, you're going to steal my ideas, I can't share anything with you.
Well, and I think it's hard because that is kind of a mindset that is put in place before you even talk about entrepreneurship or business.
Absolutely.
We all have this scarcity mindset that competition automatically equals bad. But if you look at different ways that you've had competitors in your life, like just growing up, like if you never had anybody competing against you on your sports team to be better, how would you then have improved your own skills and gotten better?
It would never force you to raise up to that next level.
Sometimes competitors can push you and challenge you to become a better version of yourself. And then when you're talking about it in the business world, this idea that competition is bad is one that's kind of perpetuated a little bit out there where, some people in the marketing industry will talk about like, you've got to be louder than your competition, or you've got to be better than your competition. And, you want to make people come and find you and not people that are doing the same things as you. There's pieces to that have some truth, but it's the way that you're thinking about it that ultimately changes what that means.
Absolutely. I mean, that's critical. When you're, they call it like a scarcity mindset versus an abundance mindset. And basically what you focus your energy on is more of what you end up seeing and ultimately more of what ends up becoming true. So if you're so worried about losing things or how other people are going to, impact you and you got to hold it all for yourself, that's going to show up in a lot of negative ways as compared to if you realize that there is an abundance out there. There's so much out there and you just need to carve your little bit of space. You're then going to end up attracting that and creating so much more of that. But it is a challenge for a lot of people. And I mean, I like talking about this outside of business. I saw this in the corporate world for a long time because it was funny. Something I learned very early on was if you don't have to take credit for the result, it's amazing the results you can help get. And so like I did so many amazing things at my job. And then where this kind of became a reality for me was I was like, hey, we're all in this together. Like we'll all help achieve this mission. And like everyone else was like, yeah, we'll all do that. We'll all do that. And I'm like, awesome. We did some amazing stuff. And then I saw everyone else fall back into this scarcity mindset and then like have to trample all over each other for like a promotion or, whatever. And they start backstabbing everyone. And I was like, this is not the environment I want to be in. And
everybody
hey, guess
out
what?
for themselves.
Yeah. If you guys all would have just kept with that abundance mindset that I thought we all had, we all could have rose together. But now you're all like sinking each other's ships. Like, it's not good.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, this probably translates out into our culture and our society a little bit too. Like everyone is kind of out for themselves. So this competitor mindset is very prevalent. And when you are talking about this from an entrepreneurship perspective, you could be missing out on potential relationships and even opportunities sometimes because you're so afraid of competition and that other people are going to like take business away from you. I mean, we wouldn't have some of the friends that we now have in this industry had we been terrified of competition and went into those relationships thinking, well, we can't get too close to this person because, we're direct competitors and our clients could be, from the same pool of people. So we better keep our distance because, they might try to steal people from us.
Yeah.
And,
I'll say it's been disappointing in some cases where we've had that
encounter from the other side,
and they came back on the other side and like saw us as competitors, and I'm like, no, we're just friends, and we're like, we want to help the same group of people, and we're on the same mission. That's amazing, but oftentimes what it comes back to is it really helps you see, where is that person operating from? Are they operating from that abundance mentality and there's enough for all of us and we're all on this mission together? Or are they operating from the scarcity mentality of like, nope, I got to hoard it all because that's all I have?
So let's talk about some of the reasons that having quote unquote competition is actually a good thing. One of the ones that you always point out and that really helps me change that perspective in my mind is that it proves the concept that what you're doing is needed. No, Kat, you cannot walk across the laptop. Technical difficulties, pause. So it proves out the concept that what you're doing is needed out there and that people are willing to pay for it. So if you find other people in your industry or in your niche that don't immediately jump to that conclusion like, oh, well, now I'm going to have to compete with this person for customers. That just means that there's enough of a customer base out there that you will have a validated business.
Yeah, well, that's the funny because it's so counterintuitive. And whenever working with newer entrepreneurs, that's always their reaction. It's like, oh, well, there's already people doing this, so I can't do it. It's like, well, no, actually, there's already people doing it, so that proves that people need it and there's a market for it. And if there's nobody doing it, it probably means you shouldn't do it because
there may not be a market.
One of two things. Either there's not a market
or you're on your own.
You've got to develop it.
Yep.
So, yeah, it's very counterintuitive, but when you find other people doing it, that's a really good sign for you.
Yeah, and I think the next step to this is now you've proven the concept. You see other people out there that are doing what you're trying to do. This can give you some great insights into how you can do it differently or how you can serve a different segment of that same customer pool. Like, we're all very different people in this world. So just because someone else is offering the same service doesn't mean that every person that needs that service wants to hire that person for it. They may better relate to you because you have had shared experiences with those people, or you come across differently. You have different personality or different characteristics.
Absolutely.
Are you reading a section from the book?
Well, I was going to say, there's two quotes that we intentionally put in the book, or I'd say I put in the book, that I really think drive this home, and they're actually at the very beginning in the section called How to Get the Most Out of This Book. First one is the only thing you sometimes have control over is perspective. You don't have control over your situation, but you have a choice of how you view it. And I thought that was so good, especially related to this. And then the second one, which is my favorite. If I have seen further than others, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. And I think when we talk about competition and seeing other people out there, when you're trying to build everything from scratch, it is tough because you've got to get so many pieces pulled together. When somebody's already doing it, you get to basically get like the fast track because they've proven the market. Their messaging and website and all the stuff they're doing gives you a starting point. And then you now get to be able to say, okay, I see everything they're doing. Where is the gap or where can we do it better?
Mm-hmm.
And then you get to build off of it. And, that's one of the reasons that like I'm always trying to like reference back to where we learned something or whatever else, because there's more than enough out there, and being able to build on ideas. And like, I love when people take our ideas and build on it.
Mm-hmm.
The more that you do that, the more that we're, instead of all trying to recreate the wheel and not really progressing that fast, we're able to then build off of each other, ultimately serve the people better and advance much faster.
Well, and I think that's back to that abundance mindset you talked about, which is there are enough people out there for all of us to serve. And this has been something that I've noticed every time somebody works with you that also wants to offer services as a business coach.
Yeah.
And they'll come and they'll work with you, and this is something that they always say. And, you come back and tell me, and every time I laugh because they're like, Tom, I feel like this is just so awkward because like I'm trying to be a business coach and you're a business coach, and isn't that weird for you? Like you're training your own competition. And in your response every time, it's just like, I don't see you as competition. I simply see the fact that I'm helping somebody to go out there and serve people that I may not be able to serve.
Yep.
It's a simple statement. So, all of these people out there that are thinking that everyone's out to get you and to copy your stuff, this is the mindset that you should be having. There's always going to be bad seeds, but for the most part, everyone is just trying to figure out how to do their part in the world, how to make their impact, how to build their business to help whoever their customers are. So if you are looking at it from that abundance mindset, that there's enough of us out there for everyone to serve, that's going to serve you and your clients and then their clients even better, because now it's like you're spreading the love. You're spreading the love everywhere.
Absolutely. And what I found a lot of times too is that there's a lot of people that have the scarcity mindset. And like, to be honest, we did early on, and I'll speak for myself. I did early on. Absolutely. And what you find is that when you can make that shift and have the abundance mindset, you're then able to help other people move past their own scarcity, grow, and have abundance as well. And someone that like I see just do this on a huge scale is Elon Musk. And so a lot of people probably are aware of Elon now because of everything he's done. But he's actually like essentially given away all of his secrets. Like when they did, like he like opened up his patents. I don't remember what the term is, but for the electric car and all the stuff he was doing with Tesla, he actually opened that up and gave it to all the other car companies and realized that, the mission that he has is to really reduce our dependency on fossil fuels.
Yeah.
And one of the best ways to do that is to say, rather than me hoarding my secrets here, let's share this out in an open space and all build off of each other. And even if you look back at like, this is where my nerdy side comes out, like Microsoft and Apple, a lot of people think they're like fierce competitors, but Steve Jobs and Bill Gates actually helped each other out along the way. And having those two companies, even though they're like competitors, to your point back to earlier about having competition, they helped build off each other and evolve and build two of the bigger tech companies that we have today. Which that same thing wouldn't have happened without having other companies pushing you.
Yeah. Yeah. I love it. All right. The second thing that I wanted to kind of focus on here was how this collaboration over competition can actually help you grow as an individual. I'm not going to lie. Like, this is a hard thing to accept. This is a hard perspective to shift when this is something that's been built into us from the time we were little and, we got old enough to understand what a competition is. Like, you want to win. That's what is kind of instilled in us as we play games, as we play sports, as we compete on grades in school. Like, it's just something that's kind of infiltrated our society.
Well, in building off of that, related is that this thought that if if you win, I lose. And in so many cases, that is not the case.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things we always look for is like, what's the win-win situation? And one of my favorite books, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it's one of the things he talks about is like, successful people are looking for the win-win. And, oftentimes struggling people only see a win-lose scenario.
Yeah.
So it's like either I win, you lose, you win, I lose, and then we can't come to an agreement. Whereas when you're looking for the win-win, how do we all win? That's ultimately when you succeed.
It's kind of like that. That's having the teamwork mindset, but it's shifting it into how does that work within the business industry?
Yeah, well, it's like a larger ecosystem.
Exactly. How are all the businesses working together as a team to help more people in the world, basically? It's a little bit of a different shift than, hey, I'm part of the team when you're on a sports team and you're the one who always passes the ball to the high scorer. And I think that this is something that once you accept this collaboration over competition, you're kind of accepting that you're each serving people in this world, and the more people you're serving is more people helped.
Yeah, well, and that's so critical. And where I see a lot of people struggle with this is when you're not serving from a full cup. Like we talk a lot about self-care, and especially like this journey of just personal growth, there's a lot to go through. And when you become an entrepreneur, there's even more that it forces you to go through and grow. And a lot of times that's scary. It's uncomfortable. And when we don't feel safety, we immediately first focus on taking care of ourselves. And that's where a lot of this comes from. And it's once you put the right pieces in place to feel safe, that's where you can often shift from the scarcity mode to the abundance mode, because you're like, I'm taken care of. I don't have to hoard my resources because I realize there's more than enough to go around. And actually by opening them up, I'll expose myself to more.
Yeah.
And so I just want to call out here too, because I know you're definitely not like woo, you're not into like, manifesting or any of that.
You're sharing my secrets with everyone.
Well, but the sign, like, this is where I think it's really cool. It doesn't matter if you're into like The Secret and manifesting and all of that, or if you're more on like the science-based side or whatever else. What this really comes down to is like where you focus your attention is what ends up happening. So if you're always focused on the negative, or if you have that friend that a situation happens and their perspective is always negative, they're likely going to be struggling in life. But like I was talking to someone earlier today, actually, like, had me in tears. This person's going through, and they have cancer. And we were talking about things, and their perspective on this was, this has helped me clear out all the stuff that doesn't matter. And it's helped me really figure out my legacy and what I should be doing. And that is not the reaction that everyone has when they get some news like that, But guess what? This person is already successful and will be even more successful because they see that situation and they see the positive they can take out of it.
Yeah, I think that's part of it, is seeing the positives before you're automatically going to the negatives. Yeah, sure. You could see somebody in direct competition with you as a negative thing because you're immediately looking at, well, they're taking customers that I could have had and they're using the same ideas as me, and some of those more negative type thoughts, instead of looking at the positives of, hey, we're each serving people in this different way, and we could even potentially collaborate and bring our message to more people out there. Because let's be honest, 2 voices are stronger than 1. So if you are able to collaborate with somebody who's in a similar industry as you, now you might be able to get your message out to way more people than if it was just one of you talking in your own separate spaces. And, I think a lot of these niches have become more powerful because people have collaborated and they've come together to put on summits online. They've come together to do live events and kind of look at marketing. There are so many people out there who do different types of marketing, and they could all be like, oh, well, my marketing is better than your marketing, and our version of doing it's better than yours, and our way is way more efficient. But instead of doing that, they come together and say, hey, these are all the different ways you could reach people. And here's some of the ways that they might even work together for you. And so many conferences are so amazing, like social media marketing world.
Mm-hmm.
So many great people brought together because one concept has so many different perspectives and so many different views, and all of those people are coming together and not seeing each other as direct competition.
Yeah. So I'm going to a little, not really a conference, I don't know what you call it, like it's actually a meetup. And from the outside, like I actually had someone say this, it's for entrepreneurship, but it's for entrepreneurship through college universities. And so there's a couple things here. One, you've got all these universities that in theory are competing against each other for students coming together and talking about entrepreneurship and how they can better hold programs, hold courses to help people. So one, they're competing against each other, but they're collaborating. And then two, I am somebody that is not part of a university. So, but we offer our own training courses and all of that. So in theory, somebody going to a university and learning entrepreneurship could compete with us. Yet I'm going to this event and we're all working together to say, how do we help more entrepreneurs succeed?
Yes.
And so to me, I'm so looking forward to everything that's going to come out of here, because you're taking all these people that have great ideas, experiences, and all of that, and we're putting them together to build something greater than all of us individually can do on our own.
Yeah. That's all I got to say with that one. Yeah.
Good.
The last thing I just want to touch on here before we move on to the next point is accepting this collaboration over competition is such a deep-seated internal thing that it actually helps you get more in touch with yourself, like on a deeper level, and question some of the feelings that you have sometimes. Because when you really ask yourself, like, what is it that's triggering me to feel like this person is my competition, it actually helps you like look internally and answer that, like, oh, maybe it's because I feel like I'm not doing something in alignment, or maybe it's because I feel like we're offering the same thing, and now I have to go back and figure out if that's what I want to offer, if I want to kind of shift mine a little bit and serve a different segment of people. And I think, it takes a lot of internal maturity, I guess, to be able to do that. But if you can do that, it helps you grow so much as an individual person to kind of be able to let go of all those outside expectations and societal pressures to like always be competing and always be winning, to then shift into that collaboration mind.
I mean, all of this really comes back to you being able to be comfortable with yourself. And it is
Confidence.
I was gonna say it's such a challenging thing, when you're really not feeling comfortable or not feeling confident on those things, and you see other people out there that seemingly have it all together. And you're comparing yourself on where you're at compared to where they're at, and oftentimes they have similar type feelings, or they should be further ahead because they've been doing this longer. But yeah, a lot of this just comes back to your perspective and the things you've been through, and really first being good with yourself, to then be able to, show up and be good for other people and those around you.
And the last point kind of brings us back to a point we made earlier, when Tom was talking about the woo of it all, is, to be honest, you attract the vibes that you put out there into the universe. And if you are somebody who is always worried about what everyone else is doing, and you've got to make sure that you're always doing it better and you're one-upping everyone, are you really improving yourself? Because that's really not how it works.
Yeah, well, and I mean, this is why it's so critical to really control your environment. What information comes into your world. And there's a lot of people that will let all sorts of negative information come in, and then that's what they see. And like, I mean, for example, like I rarely watch the news. For you, there were certain like groups that we had to get you out of because it was just dragging you down. So you really got to know, one, what kind of support and environment really works best for you. And then, two, what doesn't, and then what tweaks do you got to make so that you're fully supported and you're in the environment where you can thrive and you can really have that mindset.
Yeah. And I mean, I think to kind of close this all out, there's always going to be people out there that are trying to copy what other people are doing. There's going to be people that are, stealing courses and trying to post them as their own. This is just kind of something that happens. But you kind of have to rise above that and trust that customers are going to be able to see through those people that are purely copying.
And they will, because somebody that's copying doesn't have your gifts. They don't have your unfair advantage.
Exactly. And if they didn't create it, they don't even know how to use it properly.
They're always going to be trailing you. They're not going to be able to serve and answer questions in the same way. And, I just want to go back for a second to something you said. When you see something and you feel triggered, understanding why and really getting in touch with that, because an example that I've shared before is when Mike Michalowicz came out with the book Clockwork, I was triggered. And I put a Facebook post up saying it. I'm like, I'm mad. This is the book that I have 60% finished. I was going to write his profit first book for Time, and he did it with Clockwork. How dare him? And after the 3-year-old emotions came out, whatever else, I said what I think. I was like, you know what? I was triggered because that was so similar to what I do. And my initial reaction was oh, well, now I can't do it. But the reality is it was actually a really good thing. It got people realizing that, hey, managing your time as an entrepreneur is important. Putting systems in place is important. And the way that Mike described it isn't exactly the way that we do it or describe it. And so
and that's okay.
Yeah. And when you're triggered, what I've also found too is that oftentimes the people that make you angry or trigger you are usually very similar to yourself. Mm-hmm. And that's why you're getting triggered, because they are you.
Well, and I think, I completely just lost my train of thought for a second. Oh, what I wanted to say.
That was so profound.
Totally not why I lost my train of thought. But what I want to point out too is we're not saying that you shouldn't take legal action if somebody does come and take your things. Obviously, your IP is your IP. You have copyrights. A lot of us have trademarks and things like that. So there is a legal side of this where, if you become aware of somebody who has taken your things and is acting out of integrity, you very much can and should take legal action. But what we don't want you to do is get caught up in the mental and emotional piece of that, because it can very much drag you down and make you very negative, and it can jade you to all of the good things that come from collaboration if that one act of somebody taking something that was yours and copying it then makes you jaded and always thinking about people doing that. You've got to let it go. Is essentially what I'm saying. Well, take what legal action you need to take and then let it go and move forward and know that you are going to continue to serve people in the way that you do. And that's all you can do.
Yeah. And part of this too is the reason people are fearful of competition is because it can impact your business. Mm-hmm. So it's not to say that you shouldn't be aware. You should always be aware of, we like to call it existing alternatives. If people aren't going to you, where else are they going? And you need to be aware of that, because you need to understand, how are you positioned? How do you stand out? And how do you fill in the gaps of what doesn't exist? So you should absolutely be aware of what else is going on and what else people could do. This isn't to say that everything's all kumbaya and circles. But it is important to realize that there are other people out there doing things, and spending some time to understand, not obsess over, but understand, then allows you to say, how do we all fit in this together, and where is the space that I carve out?
Yeah, and it can make you more confident when someone asks you a question when you are trying to get on an article or a podcast, and they say, well, this sounds really similar to so-and-so. How are you different?
And that's,
it's a great way to know your positioning and be confident in the way that you serve people differently or a different segment of people?
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, that question is what leads to a lot of breakthroughs with businesses that are stuck. Because oftentimes when I'll ask that, people won't know. And then it's through that not knowing and then pushing them to figure it out that they really stand in their own space and then can be confident when people ask that and they answer.
Yeah, I love it. All right, actions for today.
I want you to think about this conversation and what your initial reaction and takeaway is, because how you initially respond to this says a lot about where your head's at and potentially some of the work that you need to do internally and on yourself in order to get to a point where you can have a perspective like this and really get into more abundance. And regardless of what space you're at, if you're at a scarcity mindset, very much so, there's going to be more work. But even if you have an abundance mindset, what you'll find is that there's always more that you can do to have more of it and to make sure that you're taken care of so that you can show up for other people.
Yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. We're going to give you one action today because it's a big one.
There you go.
All right. And if you are feeling like you could really use some help in your business, figuring out how you are different from your competitors or how you can better fill in the gaps for your potential customers, I would invite you to come and join the Lifestyle Builders Incubator, as that is somewhere that we really dive deep into ideal clients and your positioning and what you're offering to make sure that you're ultimately serving people in the way that they need to be served.
And where can they go to find that out?
I forgot the most important part. You can find that at joinlifestylebuilders.com.
Absolutely. And if you guys have not checked out the book yet, Lifestyle Builders, this is really this topic came out of something we talk about in the book, which is your core values. And then actually, as we get into some of the later chapters, it also talks about really your positioning and when you're doing that market research to figure out where your business stands against existing alternatives, how to position it all together. So if you guys are interested in learning more about the book, taking a read through of that and having that ultimately help you build your ideal lifestyle, you guys can find that at lifestylebuildersbook.com.
All right, it's been another great episode with Tom and Ariana, your hosts and Lifestyle Builders.
And as always, I want you guys to remember that it's your life, your business, your way. We'll see you next time.
Yes. Hey, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you know another entrepreneur who may benefit from hearing this show, we would so appreciate you being a good friend and sharing it with them. Are you dreaming of a life of financial freedom and more time to spend with your loved ones? Want to build your business to support that dream? You need Lifestyle Builders, a mentorship program designed to meet you where you are and give you strategic and custom guidance so you can build the business you need for the life you crave. Become a Lifestyle Builder at joinlifestylebuilders.com. Are you a Lifestyle Builders podcast fan? We'd love to hear from you. Head on over to tomandariana.com/iTunes and leave us a review.